Las Vegas Final Bet. The neon glow of the Las Vegas Strip seeped through the blinds of Rosa Gutierrez's one-bedroom apartment, casting jagged shadows across the linoleum floor. At 59, Rosa had spent 3 decades dealing cards at the Bellagio, her hands steady as they shuffled decks for high rollers and starry-eyed tourists. Her life was a rhythm of late-night shifts, black coffee, and the faint hum of slot machines that never stopped. But tonight, as she sat at her kitchen table with a chipped mug of chamomile tea, her hands trembled. Her phone lay face up, glowing with a photo that had shattered her world. It was her son, Javier, 32, grinning in a sleek tuxedo at the World Poker Tour Championship. His arm was slung around a man in a tailored suit, a sponsor Rosa didn't recognize. The caption read, "Made it to the top. Thank you to my family for believing in me." Family. The words sliced through her like a dealer's cut. Javier hadn't invited her to the televised event, hadn't even told her he'd qualified. She'd found out the same way the rest of the world did, through a social media post while scrolling during her break at the casino. Rosa stared at the photo, her dark eyes tracing Javier's smile. She'd raised him alone after his father, Miguel, walked out when Javier was 5. Every dollar she earned at the blackjack tables went to him. Private tutors for his math skills, poker lessons when he showed a knack for cards, even a used Chevy Impala when he turned 18 so he could chase his dream of becoming a pro. She'd imagined standing in the crowd, cheering as he won his first major tournament. But now, family meant his sponsors, his agent, maybe his girlfriend, everyone but her. The phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. A text from Javier. "Hey Mom, busy week, catch up soon." No mention of the tournament, no apology, just the same vague promise she'd heard for years as he drifted into a world of private jets and VIP rooms, leaving her behind in a city that thrived on forgetting its own. Rosa set the phone down and stood, her knees aching from a double shift. She walked to the mirror in her cramped living room, staring at her reflection. Gray streaks wove through her dark hair, pulled into a tight bun. Her dealer's uniform, black vest, white shirt, was still crisp despite the long night. She was Rosa Gutierrez, the woman who'd worked her way up from cleaning hotel rooms to dealing at one of Vegas's top casinos. She'd given Javier everything, but to him she was an afterthought, a relic of a life he'd outgrown. The next morning, Rosa sat at her table with a plate of migas, the eggs and tortilla strips untouched. She opened her laptop, an old Dell she'd bought at a pawn shop, and replayed the tournament footage. On a streaming site, Javier's quick hands moved with precision, stacking chips like a sculptor. But something caught her eye, a subtle flick of his wrist, a glance at his neighbor's cards. She paused the video, zoomed in. The deck he used had faint marks on the edges, barely visible unless you knew what to look for. Rosa did. 30 years at the tables had taught her every trick cheaters used. Her heart sank. Javier was cheating. Her son, the boy she'd taught to play Go Fish on their tiny kitchen table, was rigging a televised tournament. Worse, she recognized the deck. It was one of hers, a custom set she'd designed for practice, marked with her own system for spotting card counters. She'd kept it in a locked box under her bed, a relic of her early days as a dealer. Had Javier stolen it? When? Rosa drove to the Bellagio, the desert sun glaring off her beat-up Toyota Corolla. The casino's fountains danced as she parked in the employee lot, her mind racing. She clocked in, her hands moving mechanically as she dealt blackjack to a table of tourists. But her eyes kept drifting to the poker room, where Javier's face was plastered on a promotional banner. It read, "Local star shines." She wanted to believe he'd just borrowed the deck, that it was a mistake. But the exclusion from his big moment, the marked cards, it felt like a double betrayal. That night, she searched her apartment. The locked box was still under her bed, but the deck was gone. In its place was a note in Javier's scrawl. "Borrowed these, Ma. We'll explain later." Later. Always later. She sat on the floor, the note crumpled in her hand. Memories flooded back, teaching Javier to count cards as a math game when he was 10. Working overtime to pay for his first poker camp, selling her mother's gold necklace to cover his entry fees when he was 20. She'd imagined standing in the crowd, cheering as he won his first major tournament. Now, he used her own tools to cheat, and he hadn't even bothered to tell her about his biggest win. She called her cousin, Sofia, a bartender at the Venetian who knew the Vegas poker scene. "Javier's been acting off," Rosa said rollily. "You hear anything about him at the tables?" Sofia hesitated. "Rosa, you didn't hear this from me, but word is Javier's been cozy with some shady sponsors. They're bankrolling him, but they're not clean. Rumor is he's pulling tricks to guarantee wins. You okay?" Rosa's throat tightened. "I'm fine. Thanks, Sofia." She hung up, her resolve hardening. Javier wasn't just betraying her. He was risking everything she'd taught him about integrity. She couldn't let him throw it all away, even if it meant confronting him in a way she'd never done before. The World Poker Tour finals were in 2 days at the Bellagio, the biggest stage of Javier's career. Rosa knew the casino like the back of her hand, every camera blind spot, every security guard's routine. If Javier was cheating, she'd find proof and stop him before he ruined himself. But more than that, she needed to know why he'd shut her out, why the boy who once called her his lucky charm now saw her as irrelevant. She spent the next day preparing. From a thrift store on Fremont Street, she bought a cheap blonde wig and a cocktail waitress outfit. Black dress, heels, nothing like her dealer uniform. She dug out an old employee badge from a retired coworker, tweaking it to pass a quick scan. Her plan was simple: infiltrate the tournament floor, get close to Javier's table, and find evidence of the marked yek. If he was cheating, she'd confront him privately. If not, she'd walk away and let him live his life. Either way, she was done being invisible. Friday night, the Bellagio was electric. The poker tournament drew crowds from across the globe, their chatter blending with the clink of chips and the hum of slot machines. Rosa slipped into the employee entrance, her wig itching but her face calm. She carried a tray of drinks, blending with the waitstaff as she moved toward the poker room. The air smelled of cigar smoke and expensive cologne, the lights glaring off the green felt tables. Javier sat at table 3, his face focused, but his hands betraying a nervous twitch. Rosa lingered nearby, offering drinks to spectators while watching his every move. He was using her deck. She saw the familiar faint scratches on the card backs. Her stomach churned as he palmed a card, swapping it with one from his sleeve. The move was slick, but not slick enough for a mother who taught him the game. Security was tight, with cameras sweeping the room and guards stationed at every exit. Rosa knew she had to act fast. She slipped into a service hallway, swapping her tray for a cleaning cart to get closer to Javier's table. Her heart pounded as she pushed the cart past a guard, nodding like she belonged. She stopped near a trash bin, pretending to clean, while slipping a tiny mirror from her pocket, a dealer's trick to spot hidden cards. Angling it under the table, she saw Javier slide a marked ace into his lap. She was about to move closer when a hand grabbed her arm. "Ma'am, you're not authorized here," a security guard said, his eyes narrowing at her badge. Rosa's pulse spiked. She mumbled an excuse about a mix-up, but he was already radioing for backup. She bolted, the cart crashing as she darted through the crowd. Alarms blared and she heard footsteps behind her. She wove through the slot machines, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and ducked into a service elevator just as a guard rounded the corner. The elevator hummed, giving her a moment to catch her breath. She ditched the wig and stuffed it into her bag, pulling on a baseball cap she'd stashed earlier. Her plan was falling apart, but she wasn't done. She needed to get to Javier before security locked down the poker room. The elevator opened on the parking garage level, and she sprinted to her car. The desert air was cool, the strip's lights a blur, as she drove to a side street near Fremont, where she could watch the Bellagio's employee exit. An hour later, Javier emerged, his tuxedo jacket slung over his shoulder. Rosa followed him in her Corolla, keeping her distance as he walked to a sleek black SUV parked near the Cosmopolitan. A man in a suit, his sponsor, she guessed, greeted him with a handshake. Rosa parked across the street, her hands gripping the wheel. She wanted to storm over, demand answers, but she needed proof. She snapped photos with her phone, zooming in on the SUV's license plate and the man's face. Back at her apartment, Rosa pored over the photos. A quick search on her laptop linked the sponsor to a known casino fixer, a man tied to rigged games and money laundering. Javier wasn't just cheating, he was in deep with dangerous people. Rosa's chest tightened. She'd raised him to be better than this, but somewhere along the way, he'd chosen a path that excluded her and everything she stood for. The next day, the tournament's final round was set to air live. Rosa knew confronting Javier publicly would humiliate him, but letting him win with a rigged deck would destroy him and her. She called Sofia, who confirmed the fixer's reputation. "Rosa, be careful," Sofia warned. "These guys don't play nice." Rosa spent the morning at her kitchen table writing a letter to Javier. It wasn't an accusation, but a plea. "I raised you to play fair, to value family. Whatever you're doing, it's not too late to stop. I love you, but I can't watch you ruin yourself." She sealed it and tucked it into her purse. If she couldn't reach him in person, she'd leave it where you'd find it. That night, Rosa returned to the Bellagio, this time as herself, no disguise, just her dealer uniform. She used her real badge to enter, banking on her years of loyalty to avoid suspicion. The poker room was packed, the final table under bright lights as cameras rolled. Javier was in the lead, his stack of chips towering. Rosa stood at the edge of the crowd, her heart pounding. She caught his eye for a split second, and his smile faltered. Did he know she knew? She edged closer, slipping into a service-only area.